what have been for you the silver linings of the lockdown?
More time. I guess I always said to myself, when I'm working full time, I don't have time to work out. And actually, when I've dedicated time to work out, I've realised I've got way more time than I realised.
Yeah.
One thing for me is I've always enjoyed writing, and when I had lots of experience of anxiety and things like that, and I liked reflecting back on my thoughts and writing things down. One exercise I was given was literally just to put a picture of myself on a page, like an A4 or an A3 piece of paper, and just write random words.
Yeah.
And I came across this, I can't remember, I think it was off a podcast I listened to recently, about writing actually it was morning notes, but I've changed it to morning or evening, and that's okay if it's not the same time every day, and just writing just random notes throughout the day, about the day.
Yeah.
And they could just be just random words. They don't even have to be sentences. And then after that, I've been doing a gratitude diary. And again, these are things that I enjoy doing, I like doing, but always tell myself I don't have time to do them. And lockdown's given me the opportunity to just say, okay, well, now's your opportunity, off you go.
Yeah.
And you have to use the time wisely, because it's not going to go on forever, we hope. We will go back to normal eventually. I just feel like as though I've achieved so much, and it's easy. I mean, it happens with myself a lot. I'll easily say, okay, I've not done this, but then when I start looking at the things I have done, or I look at my list, I go, actually, I've done this is a tick. Or if you look at the past month, we've achieved a lot more than you even realise. And sometimes it's just so easy to give yourself such a hard time.
Yeah.
Like I say, focus on the negatives. And it's not until you actually look at it in front of you and actually tick off, okay, what have I achieved? It could be small, but then you realise it leads on to something bigger.
Yeah.
And you feel more fulfilled from doing that.
It's such a simple but powerful reframing that you've done, in that you've used the word, I think you even used the word opportunity. It's actually an opportunity. And if I think to myself and my family, we will never get this opportunity again. We will be able to spend so much time together. So let's actually use it and utilize it. Like, we've doing crazy things, like yesterday, learning how to play the ukulele. And that would never have even entered my mind to do that. But the kids got a couple for their Christmas, and I was like, well, let's learn together. So I think for me, it's about reframing all this stuff in our minds. And if we can get our players to do it, then I'm pretty sure it will eventually, when it becomes a habit to do it, it will pay dividends big time. One question I've got for you is, because this is the devil's advocate, that I'm mindful of how especially performance coaches could interpret this type of stuff. What would you have any tips, if you like, on how to sell that process better, in terms of if someone said this is all airy fairy, what would your tip be to how to come back at someone with that?
I guess I would challenge them and say, well, what are your habits? What do you do with your players? And because some people that may say, oh, that's a load of rubbish, what works for me. But what does actually work for you? Maybe you do create habits, but they just have become so habitual to you don't even think of them in that way. Or maybe you have an ideal of how you work, but maybe your players work differently. Everybody learns differently, for example. Do your players agree with your way, how you work now? Sorry, I suppose. So I guess I would challenge them and just say, okay, this is my idea, how does it work for you? Do you think there are any crossovers? And from that conversation, you then might think, okay, I might change this slightly, or they might they then might start to buy into that as well. Yeah,
that's a very smart piece of advice. Thank you, because
no worries.
Everyone has habits, whether they're aware of them or not.
Yeah.
Some are good, some are bad. The ego side of a coach wants to be challenged on what they do currently that's good.
Yeah.
So that
And
would
they want to talk about it as well, because
exactly,
people love
yeah,
talking about,
yeah, yeah.
what they do.
So that's very smart. And also there's maybe if they're comfortable experiencing or speaking about that, then you can say, now what habits do you wish that you had that would give you even more good stuff? You know what I mean? So that's brilliant. Thanks for that.
No worries. You can tap into their ideas. They might be willing.
Yeah, big time. Because that, without us knowing it, and I'm sure I was the same, that the players will pick up our habits without realizing as well.
Yeah.
So there's one coach that I know who amazingly manages to do it almost every time, turns up almost like 1 minute late every single time. He's almost on time, but just a little bit past the hour or a little bit past the half hour. And I would say to him, look, if you can consistently turn up 1 minute past 4, then you can consistently turn up 10 minutes to 4, because that's his habit. He manages his time so well that he can turn up at the same time every day. I'm like, so turn up at the same time every day, 10 minutes earlier. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. So brilliant. Right. So let's crack on here. Then put that into a weekly planner. And I've just, I didn't fill it out, but AM, PM, and evening, but looking to plan it, planning those bigger, more important habits. And I think that's for me the way I would do it. That's what I've done for myself personally in the last 8 weeks, is what are the big things I need to do. So one thing for me is it needs to become a habit for me to put in my diary what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. The habit is not doing it. The habit is me putting it in my diary.
Yeah.
And setting an alarm at 5 minutes to, right, go and do yoga, go and do whatever it is. Go and, maybe it might be go and read your book for half an hour.
Yeah.
Just to switch off and flush out kind of all the rest of the stuff. So that could then be attached to process habits if we're talking about a specific thing like the tennis development, the opportunities to play. So in this lockdown, we've got people think I can't play. Well, you can. If you just look in internet and see all the different ways that people are finding to play. I did one yesterday on the back of the sofa. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw that one. I've been loving those ideas.
Just hit a table tennis ball against the sofa, and you can actually hit it quite hard, and it doesn't go anywhere. So it's there's always opportunities to play, and I could be mindful of something. So I think the tip yesterday I gave was banish the bump on the backhand. So if you've got somebody who uses the forehand grip on their backhand, you can practice that and be mindful of it, and it actually is quite therapeutic just to sit there and whack the ball against the back of the sofa. So and then obviously planning your review time. We talked a little bit about this in terms of key tactics to form new habits, and this is just my opinion, but based on a little bit of research. And so do little and often. So we both know as tennis coaches, your players that play once a week, they're not even going to maintain their level. It needs to be more. And I'm not saying they have to pay us, but they have to play more than once a week.
Yeah.
And for me, this comes back to parents. If parents are listening to this now, if you send your kids to a 1 hour group lesson a week or 1 hour individual lesson a week, they're not going to get better. Yeah. They have to do, even if they did 10 minutes every day, that is more powerful than even 70 minutes in one go. Yeah. Because it becomes a habit. It's in their psyche. It's in their kind of DNA, if you like. Prioritize the habits, like as we talked about, make them general, then specific. Yeah. Plan them. So I've talked about setting alarms, and then you can apply the SMART principles. So SMART, as the acronym, is a clever thing to do. So I definitely go with that. And then the benefits, in my opinion, is the entire process becomes intrinsic. The self-worth is attached to things like effort and learning versus the outcome. Yeah. I feel good about myself because I'm constantly trying to get better. And naturally I want to help others as well, which is, some people would say it's your job. I don't do it because it's my job. I do it because I like it,
Yeah,
so
you enjoy it.
I get a buzz out of doing it. And this is even one example. I'm enjoying working with you because I know you want to get better. I want to get better. So let's get better together. So it relies completely on the individual, or heavily on the individual, versus that first model was, I need somebody to chart me. I need somebody to map it all out, all that stuff. Then any additional support is viewed as help versus entitlement. And we both know that tennis is a very entitled world. And there's no end point. So it's just constant. So any thoughts on that?
I think it depends where you start. I think sometimes players can start very humble, and then as they move up the ranks and they gain more confidence, and their group becomes bigger, or their entourage, as you like to call it, and then they go to a tournament, and it's suddenly, okay, I've won X match, so now I'm up here, and friends that I used to talk to, or I don't know if I'm going to talk to anymore, are we in the same squad, do we come from the same county, same coaches, etc. And so there is always this hierarchy, and you've talked about it before, are you in that, for example, that LTA group that they're getting all the extra coaching, funding, and could you be the player out there that used to train with so and so, but now you're not in that group, so you're very isolated, and tennis can be really isolating. I definitely found that growing up, and my parents would say to me, okay, you need to go and warm up, and I'd get so almost scared and nervous about the whole situation that I just froze up, and I wouldn't even want to warm up because I just felt so uncomfortable. And I wish I had someone there to kind of say, it's all okay, your capability, and what you can do, you just need to go out there and do it. So
and it's even harder for females because there's less of you for starters, and also we've got this horrible thing that has happened in the last, I'm going to say 30 years, where people have pigeonholed female tennis players in that they can't train together because girls are more bitchy, excuse the language. And I just don't believe it. I don't believe that at all. And when I first went to the Wimbledon Player Lounge a few years back, I was amazed. It actually flabbergasted me that you have the boys or the guys all there, playing cards, bantering, doing different games and stuff. And almost every female was sitting either by themselves or with their male coach and not interacting at all. And I thought, and then because people maybe could take that story and reframe it and say, so girls should stick to themselves. And I thought, no, when I think back to the groups of girls that I've coached, they're still lifelong friends. And I think we miss a massive trick by separating girls. And the challenge is that because the ratios are so low, sometimes you might be the only girl in your squad of boys. So it's hard, but we need to start at the beginning. That's why it's obviously a bit of a plug as well, but I like the Misfits program because it actually gets girls together right at the start of the journey, and they're more likely to stay together as they go through. But